The movie begins with a Japanese man waking up inside a blinding white room that seems to stretch forever in every direction, with no doors, no windows, no ceiling, and no explanation of how he got there. He's dressed in colorful pajamas that clash violently with the sterile emptiness around him, making his isolation feel even more surreal. As panic slowly creeps in, he explores the walls, hoping to find some clue, some crack, anything that might explain his situation. That's when he notices something deeply unsettling protruding from the wall, a strange flesh-like button, absurd and disturbing at the same time. Hesitant but curious, he touches it, and the moment he presses it, the room erupts into madness. Hundreds of giggling baby angels burst out from the walls and the floor, their laughter echoing in the empty space like a mocking chorus. They linger for only a few seconds before vanishing back into the surfaces, leaving behind dozens of similar protruding buttons scattered across the room. The man freezes, overwhelmed by the sheer insanity of what just happened. This moment becomes the start of what he unknowingly enters as the learning phase. He sniffs the finger he used to press the button, panic surging through him, and screams for help, calling out into the void. But the room answers him with silence, forcing him to accept that whatever is happening, he is completely alone. Realizing no one is coming, he decides to experiment. He presses another button, and a random object pops out, a toothbrush. Another press produces a vase, another a pile of chopsticks. Slowly, he learns the rules. Each button produces the same object every time it's pressed. Curious and oddly amused, he begins stacking chopsticks into a small mountain, but the humor fades when one button launches a metal cart straight into his legs, sending him crashing to the floor in pain. Before he can recover, another button produces a massive fleshy butt that appears solely to fart directly in his face, stripping away any remaining dignity and replacing curiosity with horror. Despite everything, he keeps pressing buttons, filling the once empty room with bizarre clutter. Desperation turns into brief hope when a ball accidentally hits a button and rewards him with a tray of sushi. Starving, he devours it eagerly, only to realize there's no soy sauce. He begs aloud to whoever might be watching, his voice cracking with frustration, but nothing happens. In desperation, he presses more buttons, only to drown himself in endless sushi trays. Defeated, he eats the sushi plain, just as a soy sauce bottle finally appears after he's already finished. Furious, he shoves it aside, his patience wearing thin. Next, a button hands him a pair of old-fashioned 3D glasses. When he puts them on, reality shifts. Through the lenses, he sees a baby angel pointing directly at a specific button, igniting a surge of hope that this might finally be the key to escape. He presses it, but instead of freedom, a countdown begins. A massive butt descends from above and releases a suffocating gas cloud over him, destroying his hope in seconds. Hours pass as his optimism dissolves into exhaustion, until another button produces manga volumes. He becomes engrossed, but when the sixth volume refuses to appear, irritation builds once again. Eventually, one random press reveals something incredible, a hidden door behind the wall. Elation floods through him as he rushes toward it, but in his excitement, he loses track of which button activated it. Panic sets in as he presses buttons wildly, triggering chaos. An African tribesman sprints across the room, water pours from above, and more madness unfolds. When he finally finds the correct button again, the door reappears, but slams shut just before he can escape. He realizes the door only stays open as long as the button remains pressed, turning freedom into a cruel puzzle. He tries everything to keep the button pressed, balancing on one foot, using tools, ropes, fans, even dragging the wild cart toward it, but every attempt fails. Exhausted, he collapses, the absurdity of his prison sinking deep into his mind. He experiments with weight, placing a heavy vase on the button, but it stubbornly pushes back up. Filling the vase with water fails, as the water only pours on him. He fills it with sushi instead, making it too heavy to lift, forcing him to painfully remove each piece one by one with chopsticks, nearly breaking him mentally. When he finally lifts the vase again, he realizes he's forgotten which button controls the door. As he tests them, the African tribesman bursts out again, smashing the vase into pieces. Something inside the man snaps. He screams at the ceiling, covering buttons with sushi, taping them down, reinforcing them with metal. Nothing works. Beaten, bruised, and drained, he takes painkillers and collapses into a short sleep. When he wakes, he presses what he thinks is a water button, only for a rope to descend from the ceiling, sparking a dangerous new idea. Using the rope, he swings across the room, presses the door button, and races toward the exit, only to discover the door is locked. He swings back, slamming painfully into the wall as the door closes again. Furious, he kicks the wall, triggering another button, and this time a floating key appears, but it vanishes the moment the button resets. Now trapped in a cruel dual challenge, he must hold the button down long enough to grab the key and keep the door open. After trial and error, barking dogs, and frustration, he finally marks the correct button. Combining the rope with a plunger, he swings across the room with growing precision. With perfect timing, he presses the key button, grabs the key midair, swings back, opens the door, and inserts it into the lock. Victory feels close until he discovers a second lock requiring a 3-number combination. Rage overtakes him. He throws the plunger, triggering the tribesman again, but this time he notices something crucial. 3 numbers painted on the man's forehead. Suddenly, everything clicks. These numbers are the combination. Mustering the last of his strength, he repeats the exhausting rope routine, entering the numbers one by one. Sweat pours from his body as the lock finally opens. He forces his way through, only to find himself trapped in a narrow hallway where the walls begin closing in. He squeezes through into the next room just in time, collapsing as the door seals behind him. There's no space to escape now. Tears stream down his face as regret consumes him, remembering the strange freedom he once had in the first room. A faint breeze brushes his cheek, pulling him from despair. He finds a crack in the wall, pushes through, and dives into a hidden passage. It leads to an endless dark corridor, suspended in nothingness. He runs for what feels like years. When he finally reaches the next room, his hair has grown long, his pajamas faded. This room feels different. Instead of baby angels, majestic adult angels emerge, leaving behind new buttons. He realizes he has entered a new stage of existence. Meanwhile, far away in Mexico, a parallel story unfolds. A wrestler named Escargot Man prepares for a crucial match. His family senses something strange about him, a heaviness they can't explain. His son Antonio faces relentless bullying at school for supporting his father, yet remains loyal. At the arena, Escargot Man enters the ring alongside his partner, facing younger, stronger opponents. The crowd watches as he hesitates, holding back while his partner takes the blows. Back in the white room, the man presses a button, and suddenly Escargot Man's neck stretches unnaturally, knocking out his opponents in an instant. Pressing again creates chaos as Escargot Man attacks everyone in sight. The man realizes his actions affect the entire world. Other buttons cause fire-breathing singers, failed magic tricks, and bizarre global disruptions. Frustrated, he presses buttons endlessly until he looks up and notices something incredible. There is no ceiling. Angels fly above him in an infinite void. Determined, he begins climbing the walls using the buttons as footholds. Every button he touches reshapes reality. Deserts bloom, storms erupt, history unfolds. As he climbs higher, events become greater. Inventions spark, civilizations rise, humanity advances. He no longer feels trapped, he feels connected. By the time he reaches the top, he floats effortlessly, transformed, no longer reacting, but choosing. He now presses buttons with intention, shaping moments carefully. When his task is complete, the room dissolves into feathers and light. A portal appears, and he steps through into a final room displaying the continents of Earth. At the center stands a massive button. He approaches it calmly, understanding he now stands before the future itself. His hand hovers over it as the screen fades to white, leaving his decision unknown. Halfway through all this madness, ask yourself, if you were trapped in that room and discovered your actions controlled the world, would you try to escape, or would you stay and play God? Tell me what you'd do in the comments. The chaos, the randomness, and the escalating absurdity are not just challenges, but a relentless test of endurance, curiosity, and control. Every button becomes a gamble, every choice a ripple that spreads far beyond the room itself. As the man evolves from confused prisoner to silent architect of reality, the film transforms alongside him, abandoning logic in favor of pure experiential storytelling that refuses to explain itself. Nothing is handed to the viewer neatly. Every moment demands attention, every action invites interpretation, and every strange event builds toward a conclusion that never truly resolves, only expands. If you enjoyed this insane, mind-bending journey through chaos and control, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Great Animation Recaps, turn on the notification bell so you never miss another epic recap. Drop your thoughts in the comments and keep watching for more unforgettable stories just like this.